Another one of those games that don't get talked about enough, even if their prequels are known as old classics. Strider 2 is the official sequel to Strider, the Capcom arcade game. If you're a Capcom fan and never played Strider, you may recognize the character from the many Capcom crossovers like Marvel vs. Capcom. If you never played any Marvel vs. Capcom, get out of my damn channel! Just kidding, please keep watching. I'm sure someone out there will tell you Strider already had a sequel, known as Strider Returns, but that was a bastardized fanfiction published by US Gold, who ironically only published garbage games and conversions. Strider 2 on the original PlayStation is itself a console port of an arcade game. We only talk about that, the PlayStation version here. I don't have access to the arcade game, so I'm not going to draw comparisons. This release did come with a straight port of the Strider 1 arcade game though, and as far as I know, that was a very good port. It's also significantly harder to play compared to Strider 2, so I never made it past the second stage. Strider 2 is a direct sequel, making mentions of events that took place in the first game during the story segments. There is a story, but it's incredibly light, being told through text and still images. It's a game you pick up for fast-paced 2D action. The art used for the story follows the awesome design direction seen in many late 90s Capcom games and provides a comic book style that, in my opinion, fits the game well and makes up for the obvious real motivation behind it, which is keeping the budget low. Oh sorry, you wanted me to call this a 2.5D game, right? Yeah, well, keep wanting. But yeah, this is a side-scrolling action game that mixes 2D sprites with 3D segments while forcing your movements into a 2-dimensional space. Alright, maybe just calling it 2.5D is easier and faster. From a gameplay standpoint, it seems to stick very close to what the original Strider was doing. You move with your D-pad or analog stick and only use the 4 face buttons for the actions. Although technically you only use 3 of those. The 2 main additions to the sequel are the boost mode and the dash, both which are intuitive and don't require any detailed explanation. You dash with a double tap on your D-pad and boost by pressing circle, which increases Hiryu's attack and adds a homing projectile effect to the sword slashes. You select between 3 missions to take on any order at the start and clear each level using your jump and wall climbing ability, while hacking and slashing enemies and machines get in your way. Every so often you run into containers which you can cut open for the usual action platformer pickups. Some of them can increase your life meter or your attack power. You have a limited continues, so if you're persistent you can get to the game's ending screen. You can also adjust the difficulty, your default life meter, and whether or not there should be a time limit. The time limit is never a problem though, each section of a mission is very short in length. The overall pacing of the levels makes this feel almost like a run and gun game sometimes, with the sheer amount of enemies that don't stop coming and bullets or lasers you're supposed to dodge. Unfortunately, you don't get to use other weapons other than the sword you start with, which would have made this game overstay its welcome if it wasn't so short overall. It takes less than an hour to beat, but of course, it's a very pure arcade action game. That means it's designed to be replayed over and over again in different levels of difficulty or even with a different character which you can unlock. When you clear a mission, your performance is ranked from E to S. And you can't retry a mission for a higher rank without starting the game over, further emphasize that arcade experience. And I'm not even gonna count this as a negative, because I suck at this game and every complete run took me 35 minutes from start to credits. Someone with better Strider 2 skills will clear this game under 30. That's not a long time to commit. You mean all this time Strider was a title, not his first name? Anyway, if you only want to reach the ending, it might be hard to tell how difficult the game really is. If you lose your lives as fast as me, you will clear most levels on rank E. But you will clear them. Will you feel good about it? Probably not, but it does speak for how anyone could see all missions and bosses if they wanted to. That has to account for some kind of accessibility, right? Now, if you want to feel like the game isn't grabbing you by the hand and pushing you forward even when you run out of lives, you can increase the difficulty and force yourself to start over in the continue screen. Then you'll see just how hard Strider 2 really is. Since you're on a timer and everything counts for the final ranking, you just want to dash as much as possible. You can enable auto fire for slash attacks, which you can do constantly while you're running, jumping or climbing anything. The problem with that is, jumping in this game feels really bad. You don't have a lot of control over the arc Hiryu covers in the air, and even letting go of walls and ceilings can cause him to fall like a rock. You can change direction with your double jump, but the lack of area control is still a thing. Just compare that to most side-scrolling games like Mega Man, Mario or Sonic. Those games usually give you complete control over your jumps, and that seriously drags the entire experience down a few pegs for me. Yet unlike in Castlevania, I never felt like the way Hiryu jumps fit this frantic style of gameplay. I always heard people praise this game for its controls, and I don't think I have disagreed more with the consensus about a video game in my life. Jumping around this game adds a lot of unnecessary frustration, which is really unfortunate because as far as style representation, I like Strider 2 a lot. And the music is okay, I guess. None of them really stick out for me for better or for worse. And yes, I did listen to the soundtrack outside of the game to see how I'd feel about it. It's kinda hard to listen to it in the game when Hiryu is constantly shouting for every single time you press the attack button. This game is being reviewed as my contribution to the Retro Hangover review crew from the Retro Hangover Podcast Discord. You should know by now what that means. Strider 2 for the Sony PlayStation gets a 7 out of 10. There is a solid arcade translation here that I'd love to enjoy like many of you do. If I didn't hate the jump controls so much, this would have been an easy 8. But it does everything else right, so I can't be too harsh on it. By the way, having a game clear data from both Strider 1 and 2 unlocks an extra short level in Strider 2. Unfortunately, I'm way worse at Strider 1 than I am at 2, so I couldn't unlock it to show it to you. Anyway, that's it for Strider 2. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to help us reach the 400 subscriber milestone by the end of the year. And if you played Strider 2 before, let us know your thoughts about the game in the comments. As always, thanks for watching and take care.